Y'all like dragons? Just need to keep starting my videos in weirder and weirder ways, and maybe I'll get 1 million views. Welcome to a brand new video and a new location for my microphone. I wish I kind of like the aesthetic. I'll have to see how it sounds. Hopefully this video doesn't sound like garbage. But yes, brand new Dungeons & Dragons book just came out. Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. I'm going to be giving a speed review of all of its content because there's a lot of content. And at the end of the video, I'll give my overall review and let's go. Chapter 1, Treasury of Dragons. The first world, dragons of many worlds and Dragon Sight. This is a bunch of lore information about the dragons. They let you know that dragons are actually interdimensional beings that can see through other versions of themselves in the other planes, which is super interesting and cool and great lore. So how does that pertain to you? Well, what this means for you, dear sirs, now you can have much more important information in your games about dragons. You can incorporate them much more into your lore and into your world. And you don't have to make it up yourself because it comes already made. So if you like the lore, it's just more ideas for your world. Good. For this section, I give it a solid 5 out of 10. It's useful if you want it. Next section, character creation. Now, character creation, first of all, we have the Dragonborn races, where they allow us to create gem dragons and metallic dragons and chromatic dragons as well. They give an update to the Dragonborn, which is super good. The new Dragonborn are awesome. I'm considering making a build with them. They give you resistances, and the Amethyst Dragon gives you resistance to force damage and a force damage breath weapon, which is hilarious. Subclass options. Way of the Ascendant Dragon sucks. The monk subclasses got shafted again, once again proving that Wizards of the Coast somehow manages to hate monks more than I do. Ranger, Drakewarden. Drakewarden is an excellent addition to the next line in the Ranger's most mediocre subclasses. It's not bad, it's not good, it's not terrible, it's not amazing. It's a very mediocre subclass for another in the Ranger's more mediocre subclass list. I'd say I'd personally place it slightly above the Primal Companion from the Tasha's Beastmaster, simply because it gives you a resistance. On top of that, we have the Heroes of the Dragon and Draconic Feats. The gifts of the different dragons. These are all excellent. So overall, this section is awesome. I love this section. The only downside is the Way of the Ascendant Dragon. 8 out of 10. Next thing, Dragon Magic. Ooh, the new spell list. Not only do they give you the new spells, magic items, horde magic items, and draconic gift descriptions. Well, that's all they give you in this chapter. It's awesome. I love it so much. The new dragon spells are so flavorful and cool. Treat Monk did a lovely breakdown video of it. Treat Monk, if you're watching this, I've been getting on a kick on watching your videos. Yeah, you're awesome. You did a great breakdown of all of the different spells, and none of them are terrible. I agree. Spells are good, draconic gifts are good, magic items are good, everything's good. I give this a solid good out of 10. Next thing, dragons in play. This is how to roleplay dragons, followers of dragons, dragon encounters, adventures, and dragon campaigns. This gives you a bunch of information that you might want to hear about running a dragon campaign. This is good information if you are a new DM. This is also good information if you're an old DM who needs some new stuff to make it feel fresh. So depending on your style of DM and how you'd like to DM, this section can be absolutely pivotal in making your campaigns feel fun, cool, and good. It gives from everything from how to play them as characters, their lifespan, reproduction, death, undeath, echoes across the world, gods and religion, shapeshifting and organizations, relationships, minions, monsters, schemer, it gives you everything you need. As a professional DM myself, I found this section to be very useful and insightful about how to make dragons more impactful in my world. I'd give this a solid 7 out of 10. Next thing, lairs and hordes. They give you everything you need to know about lairs and hordes. Isn't that great? Honestly, this section kind of feels self-explanatory in a way, but it does give you some unique information. Overall, 4 out of 10. It gives you some unique stuff. It also goes into more about hordes and power and plundering and quirks and dragon lairs, so it's kind of neat, but it's nothing special. Next, Draconomicon. Using the entries, creating a dragon, dragon adventures, dragon lairs, dragon treasure, dragons of legend, amethyst dragons, black dragons. It gives you all the dragon breakdown and their lore. This section is cool as fuck. 9 out of 10. And finally, the Bestiary. Oh my god. There is so much stuff in the Bestiary. There are new monsters, new creatures. They give you dragons. They give you great worms. They give you an aspect of Bahamut, an aspect of Tiamat. It's so good. It's so good. It's really good. I'd say this is 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. It's 10 out of 10 this last section. Bestiary is 10 out of 10. They give you amazing new monsters like the great worms and the horde dragons and the horde mimic Elder Brain Dragon, Moonstone Dragon, Sapphire Dragon, Sea Serpents, Hollow Dragons. They give you everything you could possibly want from a dragon style campaign. I love this section. I can't wait to throw it at my players. Overall, how would I rate Fizban's? Well, I would personally rate it as an amazing book. I'd give this book, I'm not gonna average its scores altogether. I say this is a must-have entry in the classic must-haves for a Dungeon Master. I'd say that this is up there in the must-haves. It's Dungeons and Dragons. This is the Dragon Book in Dungeons and Dragons. You should have the Dragon Book in Dungeons and Dragons, okay? So I am so happy that they made this book. I am super excited to see how it plays out in campaigns and how I'm gonna use it against my players. It's so cool. Now I'm done the score, I'm just gonna go into my general thoughts. So, what are my thoughts overall on the book as well? I think this is a very Dungeon Master focused book, and as a Dungeon Master myself, I think that's where most of my excitement is coming from this book. The new Dragon stat blocks are awesome. The Great Worms are amazing. They've brought back Mythic Actions from Mythic Odyssey of Theros, which is the classic 2 health bar shit that you'll see in Dark Souls and other hard games like that. I think this is a must-have. It's also a great counter to power builds, because most power builds that do a lot of damage are Nova based. So having 2 health bars is a great way to stop the Nova from landing. It's awesome. I'm so happy for it. Aspect of Bahamut and aspect of Tiamat look threatening as hell and terrifying to fight, and I can't wait to throw it at my players. It looks so fun. And I think a lot of these new monsters is what's gotten me excited about this. And the spells as well are super interesting and cool. They're not special. I'd say the spells are really neat, and I'm excited to see what I can do with them in power builds, but they're nothing amazing. I don't see any spell and I'm like, wow, that is fantastic. Summon Draconic Spirit is a good spell, as it summons are really good, and it's a really good summon. It's probably the best summon in the game currently for 5th level. It's hard to fit that in a power build, so that's why I'm not personally excited for it, but I can see myself using it in a campaign, which is really good to know, because oftentimes new spells come out and I'm like, why is this here? I can't see myself using this thing at all. Yeah, I just think this book is super good. I think it's a really it's one of those must-have books, I think, for a Dungeon Master. I think the lore as well is actually really well written. Dungeons and Dragons lore, in my opinion, this is very much my opinion, and it's very subjective. So if you disagree with my opinion, that's okay. We're allowed to disagree. But I think Dungeons and Dragons lore can oftentimes be very hard to get into. It can often feel a little bit esoteric, a little bit far removed, and a little bit dated for the modern fantasies, for the modern fantasy world that we see ourselves in. But this lore feels new, it feels fresh, it feels magical. It feels like they put some thought into it, and they really focused on the new classic fantasy books that we're seeing coming out that is changing the way that we see the fantasy genre. It seems like they've really taken inspiration from that in making this book's lore and making dragon lore, and I'm so happy with how they handled dragons. Because dragons, it's in the name. Like I said this earlier in the video, it's Dungeons and Dragons for a reason. It's in the name of the game. You gotta do them right, and I feel like this book really did dragons right. It really did dragons right. The Monster Manual dragons just felt like babies. I mean, it's Dungeons and Dragons, but you're telling me they're not the big bads of the game? You're telling me the Tarrasque is the hardest monstrous creature I can fight? Are you kidding me? Nah, it's so easy to kill. You can kill the Tarrasque. Killing a Tarrasque is not a feat, but I feel like taking down Bahamut in one round, that's a feat. That is something to behold, and I'm very excited to see if I can do that, because currently I don't really know how I would go about doing that. I've got some builds that do a decent amount of damage, but I need to output over 1,000 damage in a single turn without any teammates, which frankly I currently don't know how to do. So I'm very excited. So in case you can't tell, get this book. If you are a Dungeons and Dragons player and you've got the money to spare, I highly recommend getting this book. It is a fun book. It is super fun. It's got some great lore. It's got some great stat blocks, some fun magic items. I think they really try to make this book good, and I think they did a great job. But other than that, I think that's it for this video. I didn't want to do anything super long. I just wanted it to be long enough that I could monetize it. Get the fuck out of my house.